All right, let's just dive right into this explainer and unpack the massive, honestly mind-boggling scale of modern real estate corruption. When we think of a bribe, a lot of us immediately picture some shady back alley meeting with a briefcase full of unmarked bills. But in the high-stakes world of urban property development, the reality is far more sophisticated. It's deeply systemic, and frankly, it's hidden right in plain sight. Today, we're going to break down exactly how these illicit networks operate, using a stunning case study that completely rocked the Los Angeles city government.
The truth is, modern bribery is almost never a simple one-off cash handoff. I mean, think about it. Major real estate projects require years, sometimes literally decades, of interactions with city planners, elected officials, and community groups. Because of that massively long timeline, corrupt influence isn't just something you buy once. It has to be cultivated. It has to be maintained over years. We're talking about a sustained, complex system of influence, which makes it incredibly difficult for standard financial controls to actually catch.
So let's get right into Section 1, the LA Skyscraper scheme. Take the absolutely shocking case of Shenzhen New World. They were a real estate company pushing a massive, highly lucrative development bid to replace the LA Grand Hotel with a brand new 77-story mixed-use skyscraper right in downtown Los Angeles. Now, the sheer scale of corruption here is staggering. Over the course of the project's development, an astonishing $1 million in illicit benefits was funneled to former city council member Jose Huizar. Now, why him? Well, Huizar wasn't just any random council member. He chaired the Planning and Land Use Management Committee, the Plum Committee. Basically, he held immense discretionary power over major downtown developments. The developers knew exactly who they needed to influence to get their zoning amendments and planning approvals pushed through. But here's where it gets crazy. Instead of that stereotypical briefcase of cash, the largest chunk of this value was transferred in a much more insidious way. The most consequential benefit was a massive $600,000 financial arrangement. And this wasn't just spending money. It was used as collateral to quietly settle a sexual harassment lawsuit brought against Huizar by a former staffer. This lawsuit threatened to completely derail his entire political career. So by solving this highly personal, acute crisis, the developer didn't just give him a gift. No, they created deep dependency. They created immense leverage. Just look at the timeline of events here. It's wild. The benefits started flowing way back in February 2013. The actual planning application for the 77-story tower wasn't even submitted until June 2018. That is over 5 years of luxury hotel stays, private jet flights, spa treatments, and casino chips before the formal ask was even put on paper. Like we said earlier, this wasn't a single transaction. It was a sustained pay-to-play relationship. And by the way, the fact that the skyscraper was ultimately never approved? Legally, that doesn't even matter. The crime is the corrupt exchange and the intended influence, regardless of the final outcome. Which brings us to a really critical question. If these developers were spending $1 million to buy a politician, how on earth did it stay hidden? Like, why are these massive benefits rarely flagged by the banks or corporate auditors as bribes? Let's explore that in Section 2, how modern bribery actually works. So, a direct bribe generates really obvious accounting anomalies, right? It screams criminal evidence. But contextual bribes? They are hidden right out in the open. Travel and entertainment are just logged away as relationship management. Political contributions, if they're disclosed, look perfectly legal. A sham loan? Well, that looks fine on paper until you realize there are absolutely no real repayment terms. When you break a massive bribe down into casino chips, prostitution services, and luxury meals, the corruption becomes contextual. It's only when you put all these small puzzle pieces together and ask, wait, was this connected to a pending decision, that the picture finally becomes clear. That leads us nicely into Section 3, the power of third parties. Okay, so what exactly separates a normal, everyday consultant from a high-risk conduit for illicit value? Well, a legitimate intermediary is hired for documented technical expertise and they're paid transparently. Simple enough. But high-risk intermediaries, those are the lobbyists, consultants, or fundraisers hired specifically because they have access to one key official. And if their contract includes a massive success fee that is linked directly to a discretionary government approval, yeah, that requires intense scrutiny. Very often, these so-called consultants are just performing fake or sham work to justify a payment that eventually finds its way straight to the politician. To really emphasize the severe criminal risks involved with using intermediaries to do your dirty work, we can look at the related De Young Lee case. This developer paid $500,000 in cash to an intermediary just for assistance in resolving a labor organization's appeal. The result of that little maneuver?
His company was fined and placed on probation, and he personally received a 6-year federal prison sentence. So, third-party due diligence absolutely cannot stop at just checking if a consultant has a valid business license. You really have to understand who they are and what they are actually doing.
Moving on to Section 4. Why conventional controls fail.
Now, you'd think corporate compliance would have flashing red lights going off everywhere for this kind of stuff. So how do massive companies miss it? The real issue is organizational fragmentation. It's like the right hand doesn't know what the left is doing. Accounts payable only sees an invoice for a flight. The government relations team sees a meeting being scheduled. The project executives understand a permit is pending. But because they're totally fragmented, no single department ever sees the complete context. Add to that the fact that a powerful founder might be funding a politician's casino trip out of their own personal pocket while the company pays for the hotel. Traditional screening, looking for politically exposed persons or PEPs, it'll catch the politician, sure, but it completely misses the web of consultants and hospitality surrounding them.
And here is the crucial point for any compliance team: the corporate liability trap. Having a beautifully written formal anti-bribery policy and an employee handbook provides absolutely zero legal protection if powerful owners or senior executives can simply bypass those controls whenever they want. In the Shenzhen case, the corporate entity itself was held criminally responsible for the actions of its owner. The legal system doesn't care if the boss, quote-unquote, went rogue. If the bribery was performed to advance the company's commercial interests, the company is on the hook. So how do we actually stop this? Let's go to Section 5, building a resilient control stack. It takes a layered approach. Look at how these 6 layers of defense overlap step by step to catch what a single one-off audit misses. You start by mapping out exactly which approvals require high-level discretion. Then, you meticulously track every single interaction, meal, and donation against that specific approval timeline. You vigorously vet your third-party consultants. You require independent approval for expenses, meaning nobody, not even the CEO, gets to unilaterally greenlight a suspicious payment. And finally, you use analytics to connect the dots between payments and project milestones. It's a holistic approach, and it demands true, serious senior management accountability. Now, if the absolute worst happens and you suspect a scheme is already underway, this is what an evidence-led investigation looks like in practice. You don't just follow the money. You reconstruct the entire relationship. You lay the project approval timeline right over the top of corporate card data, casino records, and third-party invoices. Then you dig into the communications, the emails, the meeting notes to prove the intent. Finding close contact with a politician just isn't enough to prove bribery. The really magic is when you can connect an improper benefit directly with corrupt intent and a highly anticipated official act. Ultimately, corruption thrives in the gaps. I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful thought. Corruption succeeds when private benefits are separated from the public decisions they're intended to purchase. As we've seen in the Los Angeles Skyscraper scheme, stopping corruption isn't just about catching briefcases of cash in an alleyway. It's about data, it's about governance, and honestly, it's about the courage to reconnect the dots. So consider how your own organization connects its data to prevent legitimate, everyday development from slowly warping into a criminal pay-to-play enterprise. Ask yourself, are you really looking at the whole picture?